And another thing to talk about, and we haven't talked about it all yet, it's the coaching and how important coaching is.
You trying to make me angry.
Oh, I'm trying to make you angry because how can you go nickel formation all season long?
You
How
know,
can you run a 5-2?
you can see. My thing is, you can do that kind of stuff, but you can't just solely do that. Like, you have to sprinkle in some other things. And even from the outset of the season, even though Zach Taylor didn't just come out like at a press conference and be like, we're going to run a nickel defense all the time and nothing else, he kind of did that. Like, after the third week, people were like, okay, so week 1 against Seattle, you did pretty good. You knew what you were doing. Week 2, they absolutely torch you. Week 3, they come out and torch you again, running that same defense. So teams are like, well, we can just go off of what they did week 2 and week 3, and we can beat the Bengals. Like, that's an easy win on the schedule. And I think one of Zach Taylor's main problems, and I hope he can kind of start to fix this, is that he is obviously a kind of a one-dimensional kind of guy. And I think that comes with being like a young coach. You don't necessarily know like exactly how to switch it up. And that kind of falls to your coordinators then to kind of get with the coach and be like, look, we can't necessarily do this every time.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem is that he's play calling on offense,
Yeah.
which is, I want to still give him time because he still deserves some time. But from what I saw last season, he's not making very many changes at halftime. So reminiscent of Marvin. But the worst part is the initial game plans are even worse than Marvin Lewis's game plans.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's even possible.
How does that happen?
I don't understand how that's possible. And there were some games where it just looked like, like with the Jets, with the Browns, like they had something going. And, during the Seahawks game, he didn't try to force anything. I'd love to see that more. He just wasn't doing it, though, like throughout the season. He wasn't shifting to the games where the game was going. Like I saw it from the Seahawks game and I thought, oh, wow, we've got a guy who just doesn't care if the defense is going to give him this. He's going to just keep doing this to him.
See, that's what I kind of want to be in like Zach Taylor's head for that, because with week 1, we watched it and I want to know if he didn't necessarily do as much of the play calling or if he didn't do as much as something else. And then when they lost, he was like, okay, I see what kind of how we need to go. I want to be that guy that makes those calls. But like week 1, we were molding to what we needed to do, kind of changing it up a little bit, changing this, changing that. And then once we hit week 2, we were like, okay, we just had a bad game. We were like, well, we just had a bad game. That was kind of a fluke type thing. We saw how we did last week. We're okay at 0-2. We're fine. But then you get to the third week and you realize we're doing the same thing we did week 2 when we got stomped. It's like, so you get stomped in then week 3 and then you go to week 4 and again we're still doing the same thing. You're like, where's the week 1 guy we had where we were just changing things up, kind of tweaking things,
going to the flow of the game.
Yeah, you don't necessarily need to absolutely just completely steamroll at halftime your game plan. You just need to like make little tweaks here, little tweaks there, and kind of that's what you have the guys up in the booth for. They watch the game, they watch everything that's going on, especially when it's like offense to defense, like you're on offense and your guys are watching the defense. That's their main job, is to watch that defense, kind of see where the defense is playing to, see what their tendencies more are of this game, because you can watch all the film you want, but tendencies do tweak game to game. Like when you're playing, say you're playing a game, a team who likes to just bomb the ball deep. Of course, your guys are going to play off more. They see that, they're going to play off more.
And speaking of that week 1 game, just throw that out there. Definitely wasn't a fumble. That was an incomplete pass. The very end of the game.
Bro, as Bengal fans, I feel like we get screwed on.
We get so
the
screwed.
The refs hate us. But people are gonna say, oh, well, you guys are just fans, so you're more biased. I don't know. I've seen some calls for the Steelers that I don't know about that. And that's not even just playing against Bengals. That's playing against like other teams, and I'm like, all right. I don't know about that, refs, but
yeah. And see, the thing is about the coaching, I feel like you can't really judge a lot off of year 1. You judge a lot of year 2 because they've had time to install their playbook. They've got guys that know what the playbook is now. We don't have necessarily the talent up front to make individual plays, because I think in the beginning we were doing a lot of zone running concepts, and Seahawks just stuffed us every single play. And a lot of it is because we weren't making the individual plays on the line.
Yep.
A lot of
Yep.
it is just like one-on-one. You got to get your guy, square up on him. And also, the whole reason why we were kind of in that game to begin with was because of how stubborn the Seahawks defense was. They would not get out of their base 4-3 defense, so we could just throw on them all day. They weren't respecting John Ross either. So we just kind of were like, hey, NFL, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna use John Ross if you don't, cover
Yep.
him well.
Yep.
Anyways, I want to see more malleable play calls. I want to see more adjustments at halftime. I saw a lot of it during the first game, and it just continued to get worse and worse throughout the season until about week 14, week
Yeah.
15. When they played the Jets, I thought, they've changed up their offense somehow. They started to think, let's change the actual scheme of this team so then we can get Joe Mixon going. And they realized, oh, hey, we get Joe Mixon rolling, we're going to be pretty good.
He's a legit running back.
He's a legit running back. And I think that's going to be key for this season. We have to get him moving, and we got to, even though we have this amazing receiving core, we got to limit the amount of times we're throwing 30 times a game. We got to get Joe Mixon 20 plus carries. We got to be able to push on the offensive line so we can do more play action, get Joe Burrow running outside the pocket for play action, use that ability to throw on the run, and we'll be okay.